All right, let's start with new faces. Are there any new faces?
Hey everyone, David Espejo here, joining from VMware, where I support open source projects and communities. And well, I live in Colombia, not Colombia country. And well, I'm glad to be here and get to learn with you.
Awesome, well, welcome. I don't think we'll do a big round of introductions, but I can at least introduce myself. I'm Ryan. I'm also at VMware, work on Paketo Buildpacks, and I'm a steering committee member. A lot of the folks here are also from VMware and some other places. You'll see them listed in the attendee list there. So yeah, awesome to have you. Hopefully we'll get to learn a little bit more about you, and you'll get to learn a little bit more about us as time goes on. All right, let's start by reviewing the outstanding RFCs. I'll share my screen, we can take a look. So, starting from the bottom here, we've got this stack bomb RFC. This one's still blocked. Sophie, is that true?
Yeah, last time I checked, it's still blocked.
Okay.
I think they're waiting for a few more approvals from the upstream.
Sounds good. We'll leave it where it is then. Next up the list, we've got the source removal build pack. I remember last week this was in draft, and this week it appears to be in a reviewable state. Forrest, what's the update here?
The update is that it looks like something like Purge is most likely not going to be put in as a default utility build pack in the upstream Cloud Native Buildpacks project, at least not for a while, if at all. So I've decided to reopen this build pack as there's been a not small amount of interest in the behavior that it, has. I think a couple of people that are doing some more bespoke static file work use it quite a bit. So I'm putting it back up for promotion. Currently, it needs to still have a little bit of work done. I need to address some callouts that Dan has around the RFC itself in terms of actually suggesting the proper promotion path and that sort of thing. The main thing that I updated since then is that I've gone through and sort of fiddled with the logic again. Previously, it was include or exclude only. It now allows you to set both include and exclude files and runs include removal logic followed by exclude removal logic. That's about the only thing that's changed. I just updated that. I need to go through hopefully later today and add some other components. I did have one question for Dan. You mentioned, and maybe I just wasn't able to find it when I scroll back, that this build pack won't work for your particular use cases in Java. What use cases does this not currently work for? And is there, I guess, anything that we could talk about adding to this to make it more functional for you?
So on the Java side, the way that our build packs that build source code work right now is that they will build the source code, stash away the artifacts, delete everything, and then restore the artifacts. And so that the delete happens like in the middle of the build pack. So we can't really defer to another build pack to do the deletion. I'd love to be able to reuse the logic. And so like when you write the build pack, if you write it and have the logic in its own module, I could potentially just import the module, and that way we would have consistent interface, consistent behavior, even though we can't do it at the build pack level.
For sure. I might message you a little bit around sort of the specific interface that would work best for you, and then I can develop an external API.
Okay.
Do you think that, however, that would like be a reason to want to push back? Like I guess push back on just merging this in.
I would be fine if you wanted to just like mention that somewhere and say it's out of scope or something like that, or I'm fine with that because it is really not part of the build pack itself. It's more of an implementation detail. So
Okay, in that case, then I'll address some of your other sort of actual discussions in here, and then I can move forward. The one other thing I forgot to mention is that I have actually changed the scope of this RFC as well. It was originally a top level RFC. It is now a utilities build pack RFC. So those are the two things that I'll call out. All right, that's all I have for that. Thank you, Jan.
Awesome. Well, not hearing any other comments, we can move on to the next RFC in our list. Add an RFC for secure runtime environments. If I remember correctly, the thing that this has been missing and has been missing for quite a while is this like much clearer plan for what we need to be doing. Is there someone who maybe could volunteer to reach out to Sam and see if we can get the ball rolling on this one?
I
can do
can
that.
reach out to him, but I think last week Emily might have taken that action item, or is it for a different RFC?
That's entirely possible. I'm
I
wondering.
feel like I remember that happening.
Yeah, let me look. Shell specific interfaces, that one got mentioned. I don't see it in the notes from last week, but you could be totally right. I'll ping Emily. Let's do that. I will ping Emily and find out if she is owning this particular piece. Otherwise, I will try to farm it out to someone else. Frankie, I heard you might have volunteered. Cool. Other than that, yeah, I think that this is like, that was the remainder of kind of like outstanding concerns on this RFC was really just like specifics around a plan for what we needed to see. All right, next up, a proposal to alter the builder order. I think maybe we saw some progress on this one this week.
yeah, I got time to run through the tests with the full builder, and everything passed except for one test, but that test was failing with or without this change. So I think it's unrelated.
Interesting. Should we file an issue about this particular test, or was that already happened?
I wasn't sure if this was a known issue. I can file an issue though.
But it sounds like this could probably go ahead in its current incarnation.
Oh, there was one more question at the bottom. And
Oh yeah, so like from my perspective as a builders maintainer, I think it's like makes sense to cut minor releases, from like a semantic versioning perspective. And I was wondering if we have any like builder stakeholders who we know of are going to be like impacted by the minor bump. Like I know Spring Boot has like a certain way that it deals with the builder tags. We like push them to special tags for Spring Boot. Anything to know about there?
I didn't know about that with Spring Boot, but I can reach out to that team and let them know and see what they say.
Okay. Yeah. That's, I don't know, old context that is, I can send you the workflows that show like, that we're pushing to certain stuff. It's like
Okay.
a backward compatibility thing of
Cool.
some sort.
All right. Let's see, moving on from there, we have the RFC for adding JavaScript front-end support in web servers. I don't feel like I saw anything significant this week. I've kind of gone through last week and responded to a bunch of, it looks like we've got, this is probably 100% approval. So this looks like maybe this needs to just get merged at this point. That's on me. I will go ahead and merge this after this meeting. Next up from there, we've got the RFC for zero config web server builds. There was some open conversation on this one about what is the level of kind of support we should provide for these zero config use cases, and where is the kind of line where we say beyond that line you're on your own. And then there seemed to be some desire for like an eject feature where if you have been using the zero config functionality and you've been configuring it in some ways, we want to be able to say, I'm going to start taking over my Nginx config, but please give me the current config such that I can start to make modifications from that point. Does that summarize the kind of open concerns at this point? I know Frankie and Dan, you two have been talking about this.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So I guess for forward progress on this, you'd like to see in the RFC for me to outline a little bit of what those things might look like. Do you want me to outline that? Maybe the thing that might help me with the configuration stuff is if you enumerated, I think maybe you did, but if you haven't, okay, here they are. Yeah, I can go ahead and at least enumerate like suggested configuration options for these particular settings in the RFC to just outline what that could look like. And then maybe another configuration option that lets you do something like if you set an environment variable, we can dump the Nginx config to the build output or something along those lines that would allow people to see what the actual Nginx config looks like when they build using the build pack.
That sounds good. I don't know if it would make sense to have kind of the line that we don't want to cross in the RFC. I know things that have been problematic in the past are like put includes everywhere, so I can magically include all these other files. Like, could specifically call out something like that as like out of scope.
Okay. Yeah, I think the problem with this is just that it's really, really hard to define what that line looks like.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I can give that a shot and see how folks feel about it. So let me go ahead and take that action. I'll enumerate the configuration options that it makes sense for us to support, at least initially, and take a shot at outlining what it will likely not make sense for us to support in the future. And then lastly, this configuration option or debug output that will allow you to see what the configuration file that gets generated looks like. I think that covers all of that. Frankie, were you going to say something?
Oh yeah, around this concern of kind of future proofing or the slippery slope of features. I wonder if it would be useful to just state in the RFC that, like here are the currently supported features and we would like to see an RFC for subsequent features. Sort of say like we don't just want things to sneak in on like an issue by issue feature request basis. I'm
I think
not a
that's
utility maintainer though, or like I don't maintain
Yeah.
the web service subteam, so like it ends up not really being my thing.
Yeah, I also don't, I'm not a maintainer on that team. And so I also don't want to like impose like a particular constraint on their decision making. So I don't know, Tim and who's the other web server? Is it Arjun? If y'all want to propose that, I'd be happy to incorporate it, but I don't want to make that decision myself. Okay, I think we've covered this one sufficiently for today. The last one here on the list is add Open Liberty Buildpack to Java Buildpack.
So yeah, we're getting real close to being done with the Liberty Buildpack, and we want to make it easier for users to be able to use it and not have to manually create a builder to use it. So the proposal is to introduce an environment variable. Well, let me step back. Both the Tomcat and the Open Liberty Buildpack will detect on similar artifacts. So we want to introduce an environment variable so you can specify which buildpack you want the Java buildpack, or you want which buildpack you want to detect for your artifact. So that's pretty much the gist of this proposal.
Yeah, I was curious if anyone knows of situations that are similar to this, where there are kind of multiple build packs that kind of could handle the same type of thing, and how we handle it there, if there's an existing pattern or something like that for this.
I don't think we have an existing pattern, but I'd love to like have a conversation about what that pattern could look like. I just know that that's a thing that we could see ourselves adopting for build packs that have multiple like language interpreters or runtimes. Examples include like Ruby. There's like 4 or 5 different Ruby implementations that we could adopt. We currently only have one, but it would be useful if we had a common interface for that type of thing to say like, I have a different type of runtime or virtual machine that's going to manage this, and what could that interface look like?
Yeah, we have that with the JVMs, and the current way that we do it is not ideal. It causes confusion, and that's changing the build pack orders to pack build. So that was the initial idea, was for something like that, but then with all the confusion we've had there, I wanted to try something different, and so this is what Kevin and I had talked about. So
Am I mistaken, or in the PHP build pack, don't users have to specify via build pack YAML whether they want to use Nginx, the built-in server, or HTTPD, or will it already know without having to specify that?
oh no, yeah, you're right. Yeah, the PHP build pack does do that. It would be similar to this. Well, it's migrating to this environment variable from buildpack YAML. But yeah, that's a similar existing situation.
Cool.
Forgot about that.
So Kevin, I can link you to that, but I think in the PHP buildpack YAML to environment variable RFC that went through like a couple weeks ago, Forrest had defined like an environment variable called like BP underscore PHP web server, I want to say, that whatever that's set to will define which web server gets used. So maybe something along those lines could be helpful.
Okay, thank you.
In the RFC that we just spoke about moments earlier, there's the same type of pattern where we have a environment variable allowing the user to pick between a couple different web servers.
Okay.
So yeah, it's pretty clear that like some sort of alignment along this front might be helpful.
Okay. And maybe we'll do BP Java app server. That'll keep it consistent because it's BP web and server, and then PHP I think is PHP web server or something like that. So they're kind of namespaced.
Yeah, BP web server being the weird one here. I didn't want to say BP web server. That just seems pretty redundant.
Yeah.
All right, anything else to say on this RFC? Doesn't sound like it. Okay, that covers all of the outstanding RFCs for the week. Moving down the agenda, we've got libcnb v2 updates and questions.
I don't think there's anything because we didn't have a VAT team meeting last week, but there is one this week if folks want to join.
All right, and then next up we have a project update. Doesn't seem like anyone has filled out anything that's going on the project. Maybe pause here for a moment if folks want to mention what's getting worked on or what they've been working on in the last week.
The Git build pack should, if it has not already been released, should soon be released, allowing users to add authentication credentials for Git, which would allow them to access like private modules through various native module fetching tools. So like npm, yarn, go-get. I think even pip lets you do that if I recall correctly. So anything that uses Git as a manager to pull packages, it will allow for authentication.
On the Java build pack side, this week we are bringing back the BOM labels that we used to have. The lifecycle updated in 0.13.3 to allow us to support both at the same time. And so we're working on bringing that back because we did have users that were using it. So hopefully this release, this week, if everything goes well, Friday's build packs that we cut will have the support for that again.
On a similar note in that we are working in various other build packs, I think Node most prominently, to add the new bill of materials format that was introduced in the previous lifecycle version, but we held off due to incompatibilities with people upgrading from the legacy version. So hopefully we will have both versions side by side as well here relatively soon.
This has been done for a little bit, but I don't think we mentioned it. We now support some new service bindings in the .NET Core build pack. We support NuGet config service bindings, which will allow you to do things like specify a private package registry, I think. And analogously, in the Node build pack, we support npm-rc and yarn-rc service bindings.
Awesome. A lot of stuff going on. All right. The last thing here on our agenda that I see is promoting Git build pack. What's going on with that?
Yeah, so I put this on here really quickly to have a quick discussion about it before I or anyone else decided to put any work into this. With the addition of the Git configuration for authentication, there are now a lot more use cases for existing promoted build packs than there were when the Git build pack was originally introduced into Paketo community. And it would seem like it would make sense to me to upgrade it. It's not what I'm looking for. but bring it into Paketo Buildpacks, the Paketo Buildpacks project. So it will be included in our builders by default. I just wanted to get sort of a temperature check on how people felt about that. And then I was gonna contemplate throwing together an RFC for that same promotion. So yeah, is there any reason why we shouldn't promote it yet, I guess is the question, because I know that we originally put off promoting it till some additional features were added. Is it now feature complete enough to be promoted? I guess that's my question.
I think kind of the way I thought about it before was the features that existed were about kind of inspecting some of the metadata attached to the kind of in the .git directory that appears in any sort of like Git repository, and then exposing those either through the build process or at runtime, so folks could get access to things like the revision of the repository at the point where the source code is checked out. And I always thought of that feature as kind of like optional, like most of our users are probably not going to care about such a thing. And if they did, then like they can do the extra work of pulling in this community build pack that offers it. The credential work to me seems like more fundamentally useful to like a wider array of use cases and languages. I know that already we've had requests in at least 2 of the build packs I've seen to support this particular like use. So I would prefer to see it get promoted. I just think that it's actually now is supporting enough things that are generally useful and is in like a pretty good maintainable state that I think it justifies being a first class build pack. But I'm open to hearing objections to that as well. Well, I think that's your answer for us. I'm not hearing a lot of folks objecting.
It'll go on my short list of things to do.
Awesome. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the agenda. Is there anything else that wasn't on the formal agenda when we started that folks wanted to mention at this point? Doesn't sound like it. All right, well then, until next week, y'all have a good weekend, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks. Bye.